My vampire identity had been exposed, and I was preparing to flee, but my roommate, a hunter, already had his gun pressed against my forehead. "I specialize in domination tactics," Samuel said, his voice low and dangerous. "You have two choices under my gun. You can either unravel in ecstasy, or you can die right here. Pick one." Later, my whimpers were broken and erratic as his hot breath ghosted over my skin. "Do you want another round, or should I pull the trigger?" he whispered against my ear. "Be a good boy. Choose." My vision blurred, and my internal world collapsed. What the hell? He called this domination tactics? As a vampire, my very first night undercover at the Hunter Academy had been an unprecedented challenge. The problem was my roommate. He smelled too good. Samuel had just finished showering. He wasn't wearing a shirt. I couldn't suppress the hunger, and I found myself staring straight at him. I took in the youthful vigor of his body, the powerful torso, and the prominent veins pulsing beneath his muscles. My Adam's apple bobbed involuntarily. I was so thirsty. He caught my burning gaze and clicked his tongue in annoyance. He casually draped a towel over his shoulder, his face darkening as he walked toward me. His tall, imposing frame backed me into the corner. Now that he was closer, the scent of his blood was even more tantalizing. It was a fatal, sweet aroma. I couldn't help but swallow hard again. Samuel stared at the frantic movement of my throat. "You look hungry," he said. I shook my head, but my eyes uncontrollably drifted down to his broad chest. Even if I couldn't bite him, if I could just take one lick. At the thought, my body began to heat up, and my breathing grew heavy. The corners of my eyes turned red with suppressed desire. His cold eyes assessed me, and he spoke slowly. "Are you a suck?" My pupils contracted, and my heart leaped into my throat. Damn it. Was I going to be exposed on the first day? "Sucker for men," he finished. I froze. The tension in my nerves instantly vanished. Between being thought of as a man who liked men and having my identity as a vampire exposed, I didn't hesitate to choose the former. I boldly reached out and touched the abs of my fierce-looking, handsome roommate, letting out a rogue-like whistle. "Correct," I said, trying to sound confident. "So, can I have a taste?" The next second, I was being beaten. Samuel grabbed me by the neck and pinned me onto the bed, raising his fist to smash it down beside my head. The force was heavy, and I winced in phantom pain. The tips of his ears were bright red as he issued a cold warning. "Pervert," he spat. "If you ever look at me with those eyes again, I'll gouge them out." Later, I learned that Samuel was the son of the commander of the Hunter Academy. I sighed deeply. I had offended the biggest shot on campus right upon arrival. Ever since Samuel had called me a pervert, he constantly watched me with a cold, suspicious gaze, as if he were guarding against something. It made me live in fear every day, terrified that I would do something to expose my identity. I even had to sneak my emergency food supply, freeze-dried blood blocks, into the bathroom to eat while I showered. One evening, I finally waited for Samuel to finish his shower. I couldn't wait to rush into the bathroom with my freeze-dried blood and a towel. I tore open the packaging and whispered to myself, "So fragrant." An hour later, the entire vampire was steamed pink by the bathroom vapor. Only after confirming there was no smell of blood did I dare to open the door. I didn't expect Samuel to be leaning against the doorframe, his oppressive gaze fixed on me. "Mark," he said, his voice suspicious. "You take so long every time you shower, and I heard you muttering about something being fragrant. Are you doing something inappropriate behind my back?" My heart accelerated again. Damn, how did he hear me through the running water? Could he smell the blood? But I stiffened my neck and lied. "No," I said, though I felt guilty and didn't dare look him in the eye. My face began to burn and turn red from nervousness. His ears turned red again, and he cursed me fiercely. "Little pervert," he muttered. He turned and walked away, leaving me baffled. But as long as my identity wasn't exposed, he could scold me however he liked. However, I didn't expect that my luck would run out. One day, while I was secretly eating in the bathroom, there was a knock on the door. Samuel's cold voice sounded from outside. "Open the door," he commanded. "I need to inspect the bathroom." I was in the middle of devouring a freeze-dried blood block. I panicked, my hands fumbling, and I nearly choked. I struggled to spit the block out, watching helplessly as it rolled down the drain. Damn it! My dinner. There was no time for sorrow. The banging on the door continued. "Mark," Samuel shouted. "I'm counting to 3. If you don't open the door, I'm taking it off its hinges." 3. I frantically turned on the water to wash away the scent. 2, he counted. The smell was mostly washed away, leaving only a faint metallic tang. 1. Just a second before Samuel made his move, I opened the door. I forced a smile at him. Because of my nervousness, my face was flushed and my breathing was rapid. I prayed he wouldn't smell anything. But Samuel's nose twitched. He frowned, staring at me, his gaze traveling down. I quickly used the towel to cover my naked body. "What is it?" I asked cautiously. His dark eyes stared at me, and he clicked his tongue. "This smell is really unpleasant," he said. My heart skipped a beat, and my face went pale. Damn. My secret blood drinking was about to be discovered. The next second, I saw a mocking expression on his face. "You really are a pervert," he said, shaking his head. "Doing that kind of thing in the bathroom right after I've showered every night. Do you like me that much?" I stammered. While I stood there in shock, he turned and walked away. That night, I lay in bed, unable to sleep. I hadn't eaten dinner, and I was starving. Samuel was sleeping on the bed opposite mine. Vampires have excellent night vision, and relying on the fact that his eyes were closed, I scrutinized him boldly. I looked at his muscular arms exposed outside the blanket and the veins pulsing beneath the skin. Because I was so hungry, my breathing became heavy, my face flushed, and my body began to tremble. I was so thirsty. I wanted to lick. I wanted to bite. As if bewitched, I climbed onto his bed. He was asleep, so I thought I could just take a secret lick. Staring at his sleeping face, I leaned in closer and closer. Just as I was about to lick his neck, his eyes snapped open in the darkness. A low voice sounded from above my head. "Little pervert," he rumbled. "What do you think you're doing?" I had been caught. I wanted to flee, but Samuel grabbed me by the neck and slammed me onto the mattress. His deep voice was right against my ear. "Not sleeping this late at night, but climbing into my bed instead," he growled. "Who gave you the courage?" I instantly turned cowardly. "I was wrong," I whispered. But now that we were close, the scent on Samuel's body became even more intense. I was teased by his fragrance, my mind wandering. The sound of blood flowing in his veins was incredibly seductive. I was once again overwhelmed by thirst. I licked my lips. "Samuel," I whispered, "can you let me have a taste?" He cursed softly. "Little pervert," he muttered. Then he raised his fist. I thought he was going to hit me, so I hurriedly covered my head with my arms. But the expected pain didn't come. He smashed his fist hard against the bedboard, then grabbed my shoulders and stuffed me under his blanket. My entire body was firmly controlled by him. His hoarse voice sounded above my head. "Say something like that again, and I really will beat you," he threatened. "Now sleep." My face was pressed against his muscles, and I was drooling with hunger. I couldn't sleep at all. Only when the breathing beside me became, even did I lose control. I leaned forward and licked. It was so fragrant. Afraid of waking Samuel, I didn't dare to bite. I just licked the muscles of his chest until they were wet. In the darkness, Samuel's eyelids moved, but he didn't open them. In the morning, I felt something hard pressing against me. When I realized what it was, my face turned pale. I had only licked him a little. Why was Samuel pressing a hunter's silver gun against me? And why was his vigilance so high that he slept with a gun in his bed? Vampires have an instinctive fear of hunter weapons. I trembled, carefully inching away from the muzzle. I got out of bed and let out a long sigh. It was too difficult. I had survived another day. The military academy had high-intensity training every day. Relying on my vampire physique, which was superior to humans, I passed everything easily. Everything, except facing the sun. I was a rare breed, a half-blood vampire who didn't fear the sun. But while I didn't burn to ash, standing in the sunlight still caused me agony. It felt like my entire body was being roasted over a fire. When the pain was at its peak, I felt like my hidden ears, tail, and wings were about to pop out. When I first received this undercover mission, I had struggled and refused. "My lord," I had pleaded, "I don't fear the sun, but I fear death." But the man on the throne had choked me, his expression emotionless. "Oh," the overlord asked, "then do you want to die now, or go undercover?" I was choked until I fell to my knees at his feet, coughing violently for a long time. "I'll go undercover," I gasped. He released me, revealing a satisfied smile. Then he sliced his own finger and placed it against my lips. I couldn't help but latch onto it, sucking greedily. Good child, the overlord said, stroking my head. This is your reward. Go and bring back the drug the Academy has developed to deal with vampires. As a half-blood, I needed to consume the blood of a pure blood regularly, or I would degenerate into a mindless monster. The Hunter Academy's goal was to eliminate all half-bloods. If I were exposed at the Academy, I would undoubtedly die. But on this particular day, I had stood under the sun for too long. Waves of scorching pain assaulted my body. During the break, Samuel looked at my pale face and scoffed lightly. You look like a wreck just from standing at attention, he said. The next second, I collapsed onto him. His body stiffened, and he frowned at me. Little pervert, he said. What are you doing? Faking an injury. I trembled painfully in his arms. Can you take me back to the dorm? I whispered. It's so hot. I want to go somewhere cool. Samuel didn't move. He just looked down at me. The sunlight was still ruthlessly baking me, the temperature searing. It was so uncomfortable that my vampire form was threatening to emerge. I didn't want to be exposed, and I certainly didn't want to die. Before my ears could pop out, I grabbed his clothes tightly, clutching them like a straw for life. Samuel, I pleaded. Please. His Adam's apple bobbed. Finally, he supported my waist and cursed in a low voice. Tisk, he muttered. So delicate. Along the way, I leaned obediently in his arms. Samuel's tall body managed to block the sunlight I hated so much. The burning sensation receded significantly. He carried me to the dorm bed. I was almost prostrate from heat exhaustion, soft and weak. Samuel frowned, placing his hand on my forehead. You're so hot, he said. Heat stroke. His palm was very cool. I couldn't help but nuzzle against it. Samuel abruptly retracted his hand, his face turning red as he cursed under his breath. Little pervert, he said. You don't forget to seduce people even when you're like this. I weakly drooped my eyelids. A moment later, I felt something cool on my forehead. Samuel propped me up, letting me lean against his chest. He was wiping my forehead and face with a damp towel. For a guy, your skin is so tender, he commented. When he wiped my collarbone, Samuel's gaze deepened. He lifted his hand to touch my collar, his voice hoarse, sounding like he was talking to himself. I'm just giving you physical cooling, he muttered. Don't overthink it. I felt my shirt buttons being undone. The towel wandered over my neck, chest, and back. Samuel encircled me from behind, his warm breath hitting the back of my ear. Why is your skin so white, he asked. And your waist is so thin. Like a plucked chicken. Eat more in the future. Do you hear me? MH, I murmured. Behave, he scolded softly. Don't rub against me. The towel was cool and comfortable. I couldn't help but press against his hand. He pressed down on my shoulder and brought a glass of water to my lips. Drink it, he ordered. My consciousness was hazy. I didn't want water. I wanted blood. Reluctantly, I stuck out my tongue and took a small lick of the water. Samuel's throat moved. His voice dropped an octave. Don't lick, he warned. Drink it all. After that incident, Samuel seemed to change. From avoiding me like the plague, he started hovering around me constantly. He took me to eat with him, ran next to me during training, and forcefully put his arm around my shoulder during team tasks. Even sleeping had to be done together. I protested timidly. I'm afraid you'll faint again, he said, lifting his eyelids to stare at me with dark, heavy eyes. As a roommate, I have to watch you at all times. Oh, I said. In the darkness, I stared at the vein in Samuel's neck and swallowed. It smelled so good. My breathing began to speed up again. His scent was making me restless. Just when I was about to lose control, Samuel's voice cut through the silence. Little pervert, he whispered. If you want to lick, then lick. I couldn't hold back anymore. I leaned in, extended my tongue, and took a lick. Samuel didn't stop me. I clamped onto a patch of skin on his neck and ground my teeth gently against it, like a dog gnawing on a favorite bone. Samuel moved. His large palm covered the back of my head. If you dare leave a mark, I'll beat you, he warned. I trembled under his hand and obediently lightened the pressure. But I still left a very obvious red mark on his neck. The next day, my classmates at the military academy cast subtle glances at me. Being scrutinized by so many hunters, I stiffened my back. Damn, I thought. Why are they all looking at me? Back in the dorm, Samuel began to intensify his surveillance. Even when I showered, he would hold the door open, his breath hitting my ear. Let's wash together, he suggested. I was so scared I clutched the freeze-dried blood block hidden in my towel. My heart raced. Had the hunters noticed something abnormal yesterday? Were they testing me? Unsure of his intentions, I replied dryly, I'd better not. A low chuckle came from above my head. The little pervert can get shy? Samuel teased. I frantically pushed him out, locked the door, and let out a sigh of relief. I carefully took out the dried blood and chewed it aggressively to vent my stress. Being an undercover agent and sharing a dorm with Samuel was too much pressure. After enduring for a while longer, I finally successfully obtained the qualifications to enter the internal research laboratory. Inside the lab, Dr. Evans was introducing the medicine in his hand. This is the new drug I've developed to deal with half-bloods, Dr. Evans said. You will be equipped with it in your upcoming field missions. I almost held my breath, staring straight at the vial. This drug was the reason the Overlord had sent me undercover. I had to find a way to bring a sample back. Dr. Evans pushed up his glasses. Once opened, this drug will cause frenzy and aggregation in any half-blood vampire within a 100-meter radius, the doctor explained, tearing open the packaging. My heart skipped a beat. Damn, I was a half-blood. To the side, the half-blood monster in the cage immediately fell into a state of mania and violence. The doctor continued to explain, but I couldn't hear the rest of his words. I was so thirsty, so irritable. I wanted blood. I turned and crashed into Samuel's arms, my face flushed red. My ragged breathing hit Samuel's collarbone. He steadied me, raising an eyebrow, his tone teasing. Little pervert, he whispered. We're still in class. Restrain yourself. I'll let you lick when we get back to the dorm. I swallowed frantically, staring greedily at the vein in his neck. My eyes were uncontrollably turning red. Samuel saw my eyes, and his gaze instantly turned cold. The next second, a silver gun was pressed against my waist. Under his scrutinizing gaze, my fangs began to extend bit by bit. Just before my rationality vanished, I closed my eyes in despair. I had been discovered. Samuel was going to shoot. I was going to die here. However, the next second, a jacket was thrown over my head. Samuel's deep voice rang out. Report, he shouted. My roommate isn't feeling well. I request permission to take him back to the dorm. On the way back, I felt someone pulling at my ears and tail. They had popped out. I was touched until my whole body went soft, and a purring sound rumbled in my throat. I kept rubbing my head against his neck, full of craving for blood. Samuel held me, his large hand smacking my buttocks. Behave, he ordered. Finally, we arrived at the dorm. I was pressed behind the door. The restlessness in my body made me want to pounce on him. He smelled too good. I wanted to bite so badly. I couldn't help but press against him. Samuel clicked his tongue and jammed his thumb into my mouth, blocking my fangs. The dark muzzle of his gun was pointed right at me. I trembled. Because my agitation wasn't satisfied, my eyes were red as I stared straight at him. Samuel's hand slid down from my fangs, his large palm gripping my neck and applying pressure slowly. What is a vampire doing at the Hunter Academy? He demanded. Looking for death? I couldn't speak while being choked, only able to make whining sounds from my throat. Physiological tears rolled from the corners of my eyes, dripping onto his arm. Samuel slowly loosened his grip. I couldn't wait to wrap my arms around his neck, but he pressed the cold barrel of the silver gun against my forehead, forcing my head back. Dare to bite, and I'll kill you, he said. Our eyes met. I saw my own reflection in his pupils, expression dazed, eyes red-rimmed. Why won't you let me bite? I thought, feeling angry and wronged. I whispered his name. Samuel. Samuel's Adam's apple bobbed, his tone low. Acting cute won't help, he said. What is your purpose in coming to the academy? Speak. My rationality had crashed. I couldn't answer. I could only greedily lean into his neck, chanting his name while sniffing and licking desperately. I wanted to bite him. When I licked his Adam's apple, I heard Samuel suck in a sharp breath. His gaze deepened as he stared at me. Mark, he growled. I asked you for your purpose. Why do you keep calling my name? You. Damn it, you didn't come here for me, did you? I continued to whisper his name. Samuel, Samuel. He cursed low under his breath. The next second, he grabbed the back of my neck and kissed me. His action forced my fangs to cut his lip. Sweet blood flowed out. I took a lick. It was delicious. Like a dream. My tail excitedly wrapped around his arm. Not satisfied. I wanted more. I sucked on his lip. Samuel slapped my behind heavily, speaking incoherently. Suck gently, he muttered. I grunted, but entangled myself with him even more passionately. He pushed me away slightly, his hoarse voice drilling into my ears. Little vampire, he gasped. You really know how to seduce a man. Samuel pressed down on my waist and bore his weight onto me. I was kissed until I was dizzy. When I woke up on the dorm bed, the sky was already dark. My head was spinning. I only remembered Samuel staring coldly at my red eyes in the classroom and the gun pressed against my waist. The memories after that were very blurry. I was still alive. Samuel hadn't killed me. He hadn't sent me to the prison for monsters either. A heat source pressed against my back. I stiffened. The silver gun was pressed against my waist again. Samuel's voice drifted into my ear. I don't care what your purpose is for coming to the academy, he said. From now on, I will watch you personally. If you make any move, I will kill you. Is that clear? I swallowed, terrified he would pull the trigger. Okay, I whispered. The muzzle moved away, replaced by a strong arm. Now sleep, he commanded. I couldn't sleep, but I didn't dare move. In the days that followed, Samuel watched me even more closely. He took me to eat, train, and sleep. He was even willing to let me drink his blood, but there was a condition. Samuel played with the silver gun in his hand, his dark eyes staring at me, starved to the extreme. Want to suck blood? He asked. Kiss me. Red-eyed, I offered myself up. As long as I kissed Samuel until he was satisfied, I got blood. During the kissing process, I felt comfortable too. Unlike the pleasure of sucking blood, this was something else, indescribable. As we kissed, Samuel would take the lead. He pinned me against the wall, tilting his neck close to my lips. Bite, he offered. I held him desperately. Samuel's large hand stroked the back of my head. Gently, little pervert, he murmured. Even when I showered, he forced his way into the bathroom. What's the difference between a vampire and a normal person? He asked, his voice thick. Show me. In the cramped bathroom, I unbuttoned my shirt according to his command. Is this okay? I asked. We vampires don't have as strong a sense of shame as humans. But under his gaze, I always felt uncomfortable. Samuel pressed close to me, his hot breath spraying against my ear. Not enough, he ordered. Let me touch your tail. I obediently placed my tail in his palm. He gripped the base of the tail and slowly slid his hand to the tip. I shuddered, expecting to see disgust in Samuel's eyes, just like every hunter who looked at my true form. But he chuckled low. Small and pointy, he said. It's really cute. I blushed, my heart racing, my breathing becoming rapid. Recently, when I was with Samuel, aside from the thirst for blood, there was something else I couldn't name. He touched my ears and my fangs. When I was touched until I was weak all over and could barely stand, Samuel's strong arm circled my waist. He pushed my head toward his neck. Good boy, he whispered. This is your reward. My eyes instantly turned red, and I couldn't help but bite down gently, pressing against him to suck. Even though I was the one drinking blood, Samuel seemed more excited than I was. The large hand on my waist grew hotter. I was dizzy from the allure of his blood. Samuel stared at me, my eyes glazed over, and chuckled low. He demanded his own reward. You're full, he said. Now it's my turn. His scorching breath hit my collarbone. A sharp pain followed, like I was being branded. I stared at the bathroom ceiling, my eyes unfocused, panting. Did humans also like to bite vampires? When the Overlord asked me about the mission progress via a bat messenger, I replied truthfully. I can get the latest drug during the next field mission, I reported. I will bring it back then. Well done, the Overlord replied. Come back, and I will give you blood. I fell silent. 1 month. I had to bring the drug back to the Overlord in exchange for pure blood within a month, or I would become a monster devoid of reason. The Overlord replied with satisfaction, then asked, You haven't been exposed, have you? I shook my head guiltily. Actually, I was exposed. But I wasn't dead. Not only was I not dead, but I had also gotten into a messy, ambiguous relationship with the Hunter Commander's son. I finally endured until the Academy's field mission. The night before departure, Samuel held me as usual while we slept. I was so tempted by his blood that my eyes were red. Hearing the purring sound from my throat, he chuckled. "If you want to suck, then suck," he said. I skillfully buried my face in the crook of his neck and licked. I didn't bite down. This would likely be the last chance to drink Samuel's blood. After I got the reagent during the mission, I would return to report to the Overlord. The next time we met, Samuel and I would be enemies. Thinking of this, my heart felt inexplicably blocked. Samuel's blood was too delicious, and he gave me whatever I asked for. It had been a long time since anyone treated me this well. From the time I was born, my father hated me, calling me a half-blood monster. Only my mother treated me like a child and cared for me. But when I was 5, my father lost control and drained my mother of her blood. He held her corpse, looked at me coldly one last time, and then sought death under a hunter's gun. Later, the Overlord picked me up from a garbage heap where I was starving to death. He touched my fangs with interest. "A half-blood who doesn't fear the sun," he mused. Interesting. I thought I had found my kind. But after going back with him, I faced cold laboratory instruments and various drugs used on my body. It hurt. But every time it ended, he would reward me with his blood. I never had to worry about starving again. The Overlord held me, pointing at the half-bloods who had turned into monsters. "Mark," he said, "you don't want to become a monster like that, do you? Be obedient, and I will give you my blood regularly." I endured the pain and forced a smile. Okay, maybe because they discovered my traits couldn't be replicated, the research lasted 2 years and then stopped. Until now, when I was sent to the academy as an undercover agent. "Why aren't you biting today?" Samuel's voice pulled me back from my memories. I was silent for a long time. Then I opened my mouth and bit down very gently. As always, it was sweet. The vampire legend suddenly popped into my head. The blood of a loved one has a fatal attraction to a vampire, just like my mother's blood was to my father. I didn't understand love. I just liked Samuel's blood. Samuel stroked the back of my head. "Drink slowly." I hugged him tighter, my eyes wet. Actually, I should have said goodbye properly. After tomorrow, if we met again, Samuel might shoot me. The next day, before the mission started, Samuel put a gas mask on me. "Follow me closely during the mission," he ordered. I nodded. After the reagent was deployed, the surrounding half-bloods began to riot. When a hideous monster lunged at me, I dazed out for a moment. One day, I would become a monster like that too. When I lost my value, the Overlord would discard me without hesitation, leaving me to rot and become one of these ugly, mindless things. A bullet from behind me hit the monster in the heart. A heat source pressed against my back. "Mark," Samuel warned in a low voice. "Focus." I snapped back to reality, pulling out my silver gun and shooting the monster behind Samuel. When the mission ended, I wiped the monster blood off my face and secretly hid the stolen reagent. Samuel shook his hair out. "Tisk," he said. "Monster blood. Smells terrible." He turned sideways, waiting for me. "Little pervert, let's go." I didn't move. I just looked up at him. After a long time, clutching the reagent tightly, I unconsciously whispered, "Samuel, actually, I'm a half-blood too. If one day, I become that kind of monster." His body stiffened. "If I become a monster," I continued, "please kill me with your own hands." Hearing this, his face darkened. He walked up to me, leaning down until his handsome face filled my vision. His dark eyes stared intently at me, his tone seemingly casual but laced with steel. "Don't worry," he said. "If that day really comes, I will personally kill you properly. Until then, don't get any bad ideas, little monster." My throat tightened, and I looked away guiltily. It was too late. I had to go back and report. I needed the Overlord's blood. So, I stared into Samuel's eyes, my pupil color slowly turning red. Vampire seduction. This was the first time I had used it on a human. As long as we made eye contact for more than 3 seconds, Samuel would temporarily lose his mind and obey me. 1, 2. Before I could count to 3, my eyes were covered by a hand. Samuel's voice was filled with gritted teeth. "I didn't expect the undercover agent the higher-ups mentioned to actually be you," he hissed. "Mark, did you forget I'm an S-class hunter? Using such a cheap trick on me? You little ingrate. You're dead." It failed. Surprisingly, I felt relieved. "Samuel, I started to explain. Before I could finish, a strange, sweet scent filled the air, and I lost consciousness. When I woke up again, my eyes were blindfolded with a black cloth. My vision was pitch black. My wrists and ankles were shackled. When I moved, the chains clattered loudly. I felt uneasy. "Samuel," I called out. The cloth over my eyes was flicked away. The surroundings looked like a basement. I was tied to a bed. Samuel stood in front of me, playing with the reagent vial, looking down at me expressionlessly under the harsh white light. "The Academy brass said a half-blood vampire infiltrated us," he said, "targeting the newly developed drug. They told me to keep an eye out during the mission. That mole was you, wasn't it?" My pupils dilated. "You knew I was." He lifted my chin, forcing me to look at him. "I only just got the notification," he said. "And at first, I didn't think it was you." I avoided his gaze. "Why? Why else?" he snapped. "I thought you came to the Academy for me." He stopped halfway, his ears turning red, and cursed softly before releasing me. "So, you planned to leave me as soon as you got the drug? Never to return?" he accused. "All that talk about letting me kill you if you turned into a monster. You really planned to die under my gun the next time we met?" My throat bobbed. My voice was dry. "Yes." He ground his back teeth, his voice laced with anger. "Then when you said you liked men before, and kept chanting my name begging me to let you lick, you were playing me." I whispered my honest defense very quietly. "I was just hungry. Your blood smells too good." Samuel stared at me, grinding his teeth as if he were laughing from sheer rage. He smashed the reagent vial directly onto the floor. Instantly, the scent of the drug exploded in the room. My eyes uncontrollably turned red. The agitation crawled from the bottom of my heart to my entire body. I was so thirsty. I wanted blood. Samuel stared at me, his tall body pressing down. "Mark," he said, "you've seduced me for so long, and now you want to leave?" Too late. Samuel sliced a bloody line across his arm right in front of me. I swallowed frantically, wanting to get close to him, but the chains weren't long enough. He touched my fangs, admiring my expression of longing. "Want blood?" he asked. "Beg me." Subconsciously, I tried to please him again, leaning forward. "Samuel." Samuel pressed the back of my neck and pushed me down. My fangs cut his lip again. I sucked greedily. After drinking for a while, my rationality barely returned. I licked the blood from the corner of my lips, looking wretched. "What will it take for you to let me go?" I asked. The silver gun was pressed against my temple. Samuel wiped the blood from the corner of my mouth, speaking slowly. "Make a choice, little vampire," he said. "I am a guide hunter, a suppression specialist. You can either unravel in ecstasy under my gun, or be shot dead by me. Pick one." I was shocked. I had a choice. He kissed me, his eyes deepening. "You don't want to die either, right?" he whispered. "I'll teach you something more pleasurable than sucking blood." A strange sensation spread through my body. Unlike the desire for blood, this craving was hotter. It was like being in the center of the sun, tasting the most delicious blood. It burned until my vampire brain was about to break. I begged him. "No more." Samuel licked my fangs, pressing me toward his neck. "Little pervert," he murmured. "If it hurts, bite me." My whimpers were broken and erratic. Samuel's hot breath ghosted over me. The muzzle of the gun moved slowly down from my forehead. "Another round, or should I shoot?" he asked. "Be good. Choose." My vision blurred, my internal world collapsing. Damn it. Samuel called this being a guide hunter? I was locked up by Samuel for 2 days. During those 2 days, Samuel didn't use the drug on me again. But the agitation in my body didn't subside. The month deadline was approaching. I needed pure blood. I needed to return to the Overlord's side as soon as possible. I begged Samuel. He unchained me, but I still couldn't find a chance to escape because he guarded me almost every step of the way. The basement seemed to be inside the academy. Even if I escaped the room, I couldn't evade the layers of hunter encirclement. Until that day, the academy instructors burst into the basement. The man in the lead looked somewhat like Samuel, but with a more mature, imposing aura. He stared at me, exuding the oppression of a superior. "Samuel," the general questioned coldly, "how long do you intend to hide this monster?" Behind him, a row of dark muzzles pointed at me. My body trembled instinctively. Samuel shielded me behind him. "Father," he said firmly, "he is not a monster. Half-bloods will eventually become monsters, the general stated. He shouldn't be alive. I will watch him properly, Samuel countered. If he turns into a monster, I will deal with him personally immediately. In the silent standoff, the leader made a hand gesture, signaling to open fire. I stared at Samuel's back. I gritted my teeth, pulled the silver gun from Samuel's waistband, and aimed it at his head. If you don't want his brains blown out, I shouted, let me go. Samuel glanced at me from the corner of his eye. He raised an eyebrow, then slowly raised his hands. I've been taken hostage by the monster, he enunciated, word by word. Help. Me. My heart beat wildly. Once outside the academy's encirclement, I released Samuel. As we parted, he seemed to slip something into my pocket. His low voice drilled into my ear. Wait for me, little pervert, he whispered. I shuddered. Only when I was completely safe did I feel like I was truly alive again. I took out what Samuel had given me. It was a vial of the reagent. After returning to report, the overlord gave me his blood. Not bad, he said. Good child. I knelt below the throne. He lifted my chin, but his eyes turned cold when he saw the marks on my collarbone. What is this? He asked. Looking at it is an eyesore. He grabbed my neck and licked the mark. The next second, he bared his fangs and bit down. It hurt. I lowered my head, not daring to struggle. After he finished drinking, he licked the wound heavily. A deep bite mark was left on my collarbone. He didn't stop. His fangs moved lower. I trembled. My lord. The man on the throne paused for a moment, then threw me into the center of the hall. Half-blood blood is truly hard to drink, he sneered. Leave. I stood up and scrambled away. After the undercover mission ended, I returned to idleness. Not long after, the Overlord and the Hunter Academy made a pact. Pureblood vampires would be responsible for guarding the rioting half-bloods. As long as they didn't threaten human safety, hunters would no longer hunt purebloods. So, I was exiled to a place so remote even birds wouldn't shit there, guarding the rioting half-blood monsters. Life returned to normal. Except when I slept, there was no longer that warm body behind me, nor that seductive scent that made people dizzy. No one called me little pervert anymore, and no one actively offered their neck to my lips. One day, while guarding the prison, another vampire next to me asked curiously, "How did you not get discovered while undercover at the academy?" Speaking of this, I got excited. I rambled on and on to him. He went from being interested to looking like his ears were calloused, staring at me with a complicated expression. Brother, he said, I wanted to hear a thrilling spy story. No one cares about how you fell in love with your roommate. Okay, I said. I paused, then asked dryly, who fell in love with him? The vampire pursed his lips. But exactly how delicious was that roommate's blood to hook you like that? If I get the chance, I'd like to taste it too. My face darkened. You are not allowed to taste it. Halfway through our chat, a huge commotion erupted outside the prison. A guard ran over in a panic. There's an S-class hunter outside who's gone crazy. Barging in, the guard yelled. We can't stop him. The vampire beside me was stunned, cursing. Why is a hunter coming to this godforsaken place? The guard looked bewildered. I don't know. He said he's here to collect a debt. The other vampire was even more confused. What debt? A debt of passion, the guard replied. Realizing something, my face turned red. I hurriedly ran out and saw the person I hadn't seen for a long time playing with his silver gun. Beside him were many heavily injured vampire guards. He tossed his hair back. Tisk, he said. Why isn't there a single one who can fight? Bring me your biggest pervert. I stared fixedly at Samuel. He seemed to have gotten stronger. When he wasn't smiling, he looked even fiercer. My fangs itched. I swallowed. I was craving him just by looking. Our eyes met. Samuel chuckled low. Found you, he said. Little pervert. He gripped his silver gun and charged at me. His speed was too fast. Before I could react, he was in front of me. The dark muzzle pointed at me. My pupils contracted, and I stared at Samuel helplessly. The next second, however, he fell down in front of me. Samuel lay on the ground, looking up at me, his eyes filled with amusement, his tone lazy. Wow, he said flatly. I've been defeated. You're so strong. I'm your prisoner now. I stammered. Surrounded by vampire guards who were either lying on the ground or standing in shock, I braved the pressure and took Samuel back with me. All the way, I felt a scorching gaze staring at me. Out of selfishness, I didn't take him to the prison cells. I took him back to my dorm room. As soon as we entered, I was pressed against the door by Samuel. His handcuffed hands pressed against my throat as he leaned his entire weight onto me. Samuel kissed deeply. By the end, my eyes were red and my breathing ragged. He chuckled, offering his neck to my lips. "Bite if you want," he whispered. "Little pervert." I swallowed heavily. My fangs pierced his skin. It was so fragrant. While sucking blood, I heard the sound of handcuffs clicking open. Before I could react, the next second, my hands were cuffed. He grabbed my wrists with one hand and pinned them above my head, pressing me heavily against the door. His other hand pressed on my waist. "Did you miss me?" he asked. I turned my head and licked the corner of my mouth. "I did miss your blood." Samuel ground his back teeth and pressed down. "You little ingrate," he growled. "Do you know how many half-blood prisons I searched to find this godforsaken place? You want to dump me after using me? Keep dreaming." Halfway through, I couldn't take it and tried to run. But a large hand grabbed my ankle and dragged me back. The silver gun pointed at me. Samuel's hoarse voice drilled into my ear. "2 more times, or 3 more times?" he asked. "Choose for yourself." That night, I dragged my sore and limp body into my coffin to sleep. Samuel insisted on squeezing into. In the narrow, enclosed space, the seductive scent filled the air. I was once again drooling with craving. Samuel circled my waist and nuzzled me. "Little pervert," he whispered. "If you want to bite, just bite."